and welcome back to the BraindAI Podcast. I'm your host Lenka. This is the show for digital agencies and innovative brands focused on predictable growth. We deliver the AI solutions and systems required to streamline client acquisition and automate service delivery, ensuring you are maximizing your capacity to scale. Today, we're excited to welcome Patrick, who brings a wealth of experience from his career spanning media and advertising, with a significant focus on creators and influencers since 2012. Having worked with major holding groups like WPP and Publicis, Patrick has led content divisions and played a pivotal role in shaping the industry. He was instrumental in co-founding AIMCO, the Australian Influencer Marketing Council, a non-profit industry body dedicated to fostering trust and transparency in the influencer marketing space. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you for the introduction.
To start with, could you tell us about the founding of AIMCO? What was the initial vision and specific needs or gaps that influencer marketing industry had back in the day when you established it?
Yeah, I think the initial conversation started around 2018. There was a number of us working in this area, from individual creators through to social, PR, influencer tech, and where I was at the time at an advertising agency. And I think the desire was we kept hearing that this space was the Wild West, and we still kind of hear that today. But back then it was that was the thing we were hearing. And we just felt like, knowing that there are other industry bodies out there that created confidence for marketers, we felt that something needed to be created to tackle the thought around it being like the Wild West. About 30 founding partners got together, and we approached an industry body that already existed called the AIMCO, who were focused in on press auditing since about 1930. So they were very well trusted and established, and we kind of worked together as a group where we kind of got together to kind of create a code of practice and to enable us to, and it really was the world's first kind of publication of something like that, where we aligned on things that we felt would help create trust, transparency, and eventually confidence with marketers. So yeah, over that 18-month period, we all aligned, and we then published this for the first time. And that was the kind of the start of AIMCO, really, as being a membership organization, a not-for-profit industry body that wanted to raise the standards through best practice in this industry. And that has kind of been our goal throughout everything that we've done since then. So that's kind of the start of it. And we continue to push into areas where we feel more trust and transparency needs to be discussed and I guess aligned upon.
You mentioned code of practice. Can you elaborate on the key area this covers, like disclosure metrics or like the vetting you guys do? What's the crucial
back then, there wasn't any in-paid partnership. So there was a lot of hashtags around at the time to disclose, but there wasn't really any, there was no alignment either locally or globally on what that meant. So for us, the code of practice was going to be aligned to disclosure, around vetting, around briefs, around contracts, around metrics and reporting. And we felt that would enable us to have a strong foundation with which to move the industry forward. And then that was what all of the founding members and all members subsequently adhere to, as kind of saying, well, this is what best practice looks like. And as things have developed, platforms have grown or launched, and that disclosure has become an important part of the industry. But that isn't the only part now that we focus in on, but that was the founding part of it.
Your focus is also on like risk mitigation, governance, and education, how you showcase great work. Could you provide some examples of how AIMCO supports in members?
Yeah, those three pillars are what I hear a lot from brands and businesses on members that join us, but also I guess that's how we've adapted our pillars of what we offer our members. So when it comes to risk mitigation and governance, there's a lot of, things that people need to start to understand when it comes to influencer marketing. And we pillar that around what are the things that you need to be considering around disclosure or working with therapeutics goods in this marketplace, or gifting, or tax implications, or working with children if they're involved in influencer accounts. We try to discuss through a number of committees and working groups to discuss where the grey areas are and where we believe best practice needs to be adhered to. And that's either working with government agencies and deciphering where they're going, or even taking the proactive step like we did with where children are involved in family and parent accounts, taking a proactive stance on what does best practice look like. So that helps any person that joins AIMCO. They're able to download a number of our industry information sheets to ensure that they are adhering to best practice. When it comes to education, about 2.5 years ago, we created an accreditation training program that was built by our members and is part of membership. We've had over 500 members go through it now, where essentially it's an online course where any member can essentially get an industry standard education, where we're essentially raising the standards of understanding in the influencer space. So any member that joins can put their team through it, or their growing team, or just ensuring that everyone's having the right similar conversations either internally or with their partners. So that's the education part. And then what does great work look like? For us, we try to inspire people through ongoing webinars and conversations and working groups that we have. But the ultimate in terms of what great work looks like is that we have an awards program that happens every year, and in fact, it's happening in February this month, where we bring together the best of our industry. We had over 255 entries this year. It's judged by over 100 judges across the spectrum of the industry, from brands to social media specialists, PR creators. We bring, I guess, half of the awards is for creators and half of it's for the industry. So we're really excited. It's kind of a melting pot of creativity, and that essentially just kind of enables the rest of the industry to see, well, what does the best work look like over the last year? So that's kind of how we celebrate what great work looks like. But then also this year, we're adding a summit to the daytime as well. So not only do we have the awards in the evening, we have a daytime summit. And that will be about where do we think the industry is going next? So how do we bring the best of our industry together to talk about where we want to go to next? That's how we do it. And then I guess overall, what we try to do as a group that goes across all three of those pillars is create working committees based on things that we believe need to be tackled. One of the big topics that we talk about at the moment is super from a creator perspective and the responsibility around that. We have an industry information sheet coming out soon around influencer giveaways and what is the awareness that people need to have around doing things like that in this industry. So for us, it's always about what's next and how can we create more best practice in the industry.
Such a great initiative. Well, good luck with the awards and also summit. I can imagine there's a lot of work going into it as well.
Just a little bit.
As someone who has been deeply involved in shaping the industry, what's a common misconception people may have about influencer marketing?
Well, there's a couple. The first one I already mentioned, which was it's like the Wild West. And we still hear that today, even when we heard it back in 2018. And I feel like that's a little unfair. That usually that's people saying that where they aren't really lent into this industry. They're probably quite removed and kind of going, well, this is a new media. I don't understand it. And it feels like there's probably inconsistency. And there probably is a little bit of inconsistency in the marketplace, because there are those that are adhering to best practice, and they've probably seen people that aren't adhering to best practice, of course. So there's that. The other one you hear a lot, and I know we have within our membership, is that we have an industry advisory committee and a creator advisory committee that help us, I guess, come together to give a voice back to the industry to where we need to go. And the other one is that being a creator is very easy, and creators don't like to hear that at all, because it looks like what they're posting is entertaining and it's easy. But I think a lot of the misconception around that is that they don't quite understand what happens behind that. And for us, creators get into this space because they are creative people. They're connected to their community, or they're creating a community from their creativity, and also they love their niche, whatever it is that they're interested in. But a lot of them, when they get into this, don't get into it to be the CEO of their own business, but they very quickly find out that they are becoming that. They are a brand in themselves, and they are creating an audience that has an impact and a connection, and brands want to work with them. But not only are they thinking about how they think about brand partnerships, of course, which is where the majority of the revenue that comes into this industry, but they start to think about their own IP, their own brand extensions. Where do they think they need to go? So very, very quickly, they are becoming a phrase I hear a lot now, is that they are the new media publishers of this world. So where there's a lot of responsibility on someone that essentially is working predominantly at home, alone, isolated normally. So that brings a lot of weight on them. Then to help them navigate that and work better in this industry is something that, yes, they may make it look easy, but behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes into what they do.
Okay, there's more and more AI influencers popping up, right? Not even real humans.
Sure.
And it's getting harder and harder to, differentiate like what's real, what is not. What's your intake on this?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of noise around AI at the moment, and not just in this space. Everyone's thinking about how it's impacting their lives and how it's impacting work and personal lives. For us, the focus normally goes in around what gets headlines, which is normally AI influencers, right? That's usually the headline, right? But there's a lot more to AI in our industry than it is just it's AI influencers. So for me, our position and the conversation that we have with our members is very simple. It's all about transparency, IP, and disclosure. All of those things matter when it comes to our members, what we're doing. And consumers do need to understand when AI is being used, and creators deserve confidence that their work and likeness and ideas are being respected. And that's, I think, is key too. One of the risks I heard recently from one of our creator members, who's also on our creator advisory committee, is that there's some unethical repurposing happening of creators' work out there, from where they've had a past campaign, where their original scripts and concepts and potentially their entire videos are being recreated by AI actors using synthetic faces or just repurposing just with a pure AI influencer. And that's something that, in many cases, platforms are going to struggle to recognize. But importantly, it is a violation. And then it leaves creators exposed and obviously frustrated because there's a lack of control there, but also it's their IP that is being infringed upon. So for us, it's all about education when it comes to and standards that matter for us. We've already drafted a code of ethics across our membership at the moment. That's in draft at the moment, where we do tackle part of it being, what's our approach as a membership around AI.
Yeah.
And importantly, AI shouldn't be a shortcut, that undermines trust or erodes creativity or IP, because, if it's used poorly, it damages the whole ecosystem, so we really need to do it responsibly. But then for me, those that are using it, there is examples where AI is doing some great work when it comes to brands and brands wanting to play in this space, because brand safety is always very key. And there's examples of members of ours that use technology to use AI to scan work out there of creators to ensure that, I guess, understanding, where there are risks to their brand when maybe working with a creator, or understanding what that creator does or doesn't do. And I think that's important way of helping brands feel more safer when it comes to this environment. But I would probably say, creators themselves, and ultimately what we need to be thinking about is how we can better get the brands and the creators to collaborate together, not distance themselves, not create this distrust or shortcuts when it comes to AI. There's opportunity there, but for us, the clear principles are transparency and respect and creative ownership are so important.
Well, grateful that we have you guys, so we can keep an eye on it. And, you never know what's coming, right? Like something, can pop up in the next 6 months, and then you'll need to, get on top of it there and again and again. I agree that it should be about trust, about authenticity, and just transparency, so people know what they experience with and how they incline with the brand or they don't. So lot of potential and risks there too.
Look, interestingly, we just had a session today with the Creator Advisory. One of the things that came up was that when you start to use AI to ideate, you're probably already infringing on someone's copyright, because effectively the AI engine is coming up with ideas that have already been made or by someone else. So there's already thoughts that if you're shortcutting utilizing elements of AI through various different AI platforms, that those ideas have had to come from somewhere. So they probably are, in a sense, copyrighted. So it's something that needs to be navigated. And again, it comes down to disclosure and awareness of how you might be using it in your day-to-day, but also in your creativity.
I agree. What do you think are some biggest challenges or opportunities that the brands and marketers have when they try to integrate influencer marketing into their overarching marketing strategy?
Yeah, it's a common conversation. We've had a lot of brands join us as members, and they're all on a path towards, okay, there's this thing happening over here that's doing really, really well, and we need to be part of it. And they're either doing it a little bit already within their teams through a corporate comms team or a PR team already, or they're using an external partner. And I think the challenges for them is to kind of go, well, how do we bring it from something that is sitting on the outside potentially of their marketing department to more inside and being a central part of what they're doing. And when you do that, how do you do it safely and mitigate that risk? So I think there's a lot of brands at the moment that are challenging themselves to understand this space better, understand the power of it, understand how creator work can work throughout the whole ecosystem, not just either performance UGC or consideration around reviews. We're starting to see great research out of businesses like System One around the impact that creators can have on brand. The work our industry can deliver for brands can touch upon the whole marketing funnel system, however you wish to position it within your business. But how do you take the journey towards bringing it in? And potentially for some brands, it's what is the creator idea first and out from then? Whereas potentially back in the day, it was what's the central idea? And predominantly that would have been TV. And how do we go from TV out from there? So I think it's how brands are challenging themselves to bring it more centralized into their marketing teams, both through their own processes, but also through their own education, and then just how they work internally or with external partners to deliver that.
What's your viewpoint on where we're heading in the next few years?
I think where we're going is the next point for me is how do we professionalize this more for creators? How do they become more of a professional organization? As I said at the beginning, one of the things that they're finding is that they're becoming businesses in their own right. And brands will think about, well, how do we partner with a creator to create a product? Or how does that creator create their own product around that or their own business from that? So there's where I think it's going is that I think creators will start to think predominantly away from where most of the revenue is, which is brand partnerships, to yes, that's still going to be an important part of the industry. But I think as the creators get more of an audience and more of a connection, they'll start to make informed decisions about them as a brand and them as a business, who they partner with, what they launch, what products they deliver on. But also thinking how they're not so beholden to one platform as well, and how they diversify their revenue is going to be keys. I think professionalizing these creators and thinking about how they're connecting and growing their audiences is going to be so key for the future. Right now, it's a journey to educate creators, but also help brands educate on how they can work with creators in the future.
Yeah. Based on what's coming, what does excite you most and what you are the most scared of?
What am I excited about? I think, well, if I think about something that's happening right in front of me, I'm excited about, if I was to think about what's going on for me right now, is I'm excited about our awards and our summit. So that's probably what excites me the most, because I love celebrating the best work across our industry here in Australia. But then I also want to bring a lot of people in the room to talk about where we can go next with our summit. So that probably excites me and scares me at the same time, because trying to put on an event like this is quite big for a small not-for-profit industry body. So that's probably is what excites me the most at the moment. And then once I've got through that, I'll think about what else is on the horizon. But that is what is right in front of me, because we're only, less than a week and a half away.
Beyond the professional achievements, what has been the most personally rewarding aspect of your work with AIMCO?
With AIMCO, I'd probably say there are two things that I'm most proud of. I think the first one was, and this was when I wasn't in my role, I was a board director and on the guiding council, was the creation of our awards program. It was during COVID. My second child had just been born. I'd left the agency that I was with, and I was kind of sitting there looking for, what was next for me. But knowing that I'd worked with awards programs in the past and entered many awards over the years for agencies and so on, I just felt like I wanted to create something where we could celebrate the best of our industry and have something that, because at the time, the traditional award programs were never even considering creator work to recognize as an award.
Yeah.
And I know now that Calm has creators there and everyone is adding creators to their awards program. We started our awards program 4 years ago. So I'm incredibly proud of helping to be part of creating that. I wrote all of the different categories and things like that. And this was before AI. So I had to write all of that from scratch. There was no AI to help me write awards categories and things like that. So I was incredibly proud of that. I'd say the second one is the work that we did and how long it took around producing an industry information guide or an industry information sheet around working with where children are involved in family accounts. We knew that there was something going on with, even when we started it, there wasn't the thought around the under 16 ban, but what we were very clear of, having lived in a previous life of shooting television commercials or being on photography sets, there was clear guidance here in Australia by state around child employment. But we felt that there was a real grey area around when a child is involved in a mum or dad account where they're included in brand partnerships. And you see it all the time. So we just felt like when the film set had gone from being a traditional film set to the film set being at home, what were those areas with which our members should be aligning to and then, I guess, including in the contracts to ensure that that child was safe, but also considered when working with a brand. And it was things that we went through and saw things in other markets happen around the state of Illinois and Chicago, determining that there needed to be a percentage of the fee going to the child, through to the things that are happening in France around children being able to appear in brand partnerships or not. So as we kept talking, more things started to develop in other markets. Yeah, although there are state child employment rules for traditional film sets and things, we just felt, okay, well, here's something that we want our members to be considering, such as around risk assessments and not working during school hours and taking regular breaks and all of those things to be thought of. I think I'm incredibly proud of that because it was a really proactive stance from us to take that position and help guide our members to be safer in that space. And we have had some brands think about how they include that industry information sheet in their contracts when a child is included in a family account when working on a brand partnership. So incredibly proud of that. And then the awards and the summit. So, but there's lots more to do, definitely. But I would say those are probably the two at the moment.
Amazing. How great initiatives. Love it. Last question before I let you go. If someone's watching this and they want to be part of AIMCO or they're thinking about building their career as an influencer, what do you reckon? Where they should go, what they should do, what the steps would be the most appropriate?
Well, first and foremost, anyone that's entering this market, it is a great industry to be working in. Whether you're a brand, you are working with some incredibly creative people. And if you're a creator starting out, essentially, most of them don't get into it to be a creator. I know lots of kids want to be YouTube creators today, which you hear research on. But I think as you build an audience, you then get attention from brands that want to connect with that audience. So I always say to any creator, and I've spoken at creator academies and with brands, is how do you do it where you are starting off with enough awareness and education of how to do it the right way from a best practice standpoint. So if I was either a creator or a brand, I always say to them, and having been a member myself of AIMCO in the past, is join, download all of the resources that ensure that you are able to understand what to do in this space and what not to do. And I think that's probably the thing that you can do. You can be incredibly creative whilst ensuring that you're mitigating risk, both for yourself personally and understanding when working with brands. And that covers anything from IP through to understanding things around music rights, through to understanding when, you might have, a PR disaster or anything like that as a creator. There's lots of things that we try to educate either brands or creators or any agency that joins us. So I always say, let's be creative, but let's do it through understanding how to do it the right way.
Thank you so much, Patrick. That was amazing. To all of our listeners, you'll find a link to AIMCO down below in the description. Also, if you want to get in touch with Patrick. And let us know what are your thoughts on influencer marketing. If there's something else you would like to cover next time, and we'll be back soon with another interesting topic.
Thank you.